Welcome Homeworthy. I'm Tayler Lowden. This is my home in Suffield, Ohio. Let's take a look around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
My name is Tayler Lowden. I am a stay-at-home mom of 3. I sell antiques on my website, theflippingvintage.com, and I share my home on Instagram and TikTok at flippingvintage76. I'm located in Suffield, Ohio. My home is primitive, early American style. Most of my stuff is antique or thrifted, or both, because you can thrift lots of antiques around here. My favorite room in the house is probably my living room, just because it's a gathering place. Our house is small, so we tend to gather in the living room, and I love my family, and I just love my kids running around, just watching them play and hang out. Welcome to my living room. So this cabinet I actually inherited from my great grandma. She actually hand painted it green, which is now my favorite, and you can see throughout my home I am obsessed with green and blues, and it's partly because of her cabinet. This was the first antique piece in my home, and I'll never part with it. Hopefully my daughter will take it when she moves out, but I just love it. Everyone asks me what color it is and how was it painted. Well, my grandma did it, and it's always been like this. All the stuff inside of it I have thrifted. I actually thrifted this yesterday. It's a cloche. These are kind of hard to find and sometimes really expensive. Thankfully, I got it for $5 yesterday, and I decided to put my little mannequin hands in it just for fun, because I like kind of weird things in my home. This scale is another favorite of mine. I actually got this off of eBay, and it arrived broken, and I managed to get it for free because of the shape it got when it got here, but it's one of my favorite pieces. I like to collect oddities, which some people call it. So I'll have a random pufferfish or a turtle's shellfish, the piece of coral or starfishes. You'll see a bunch of random stuff throughout my home, which are oddities. I love old primitive chessboards, but they are very hard to find, and if you do find them, they can get quite expensive. And I mean like $500 expensive, which I'm not gonna pay for a checkerboard. So I decided I have a lot of cutting boards laying around, and this one was a perfect size to make into a chess checkerboard, which I did. I hand painted it, and that took a while, but now I have this beautiful piece that kind of looks primitive, but it's not, but I love it, and I'll probably never part with it now. I like to take greenery from outside inside. It gives it a more earthy feel, and it's natural instead of bringing fake things into the home, which you can exchange frequently and have new things to look at instead of the same thing over and over again. So this is an old baking table where people would prep in the 1800s food or whatever they need done in the kitchen. That's why it's shorter than normal. The legs were not cut. I found this off of Facebook Marketplace, which you'll hear me say a lot because I'm on there quite frequently. I love the color and the shade and just how well built things were back then. It'll last a lifetime. I got this off of Facebook Marketplace also. I wanted a piece that felt like a built-in, so it's a corner cabinet, and it gives my home a more primitive feel since my house is not very old. It's from the 50s. It just gives more earth tones, wood warm tones. Inside of it, I have my collection of antique Bibles that you'll see. Some of them date back to the 1700s. I like the massive ones and the smaller ones. The smaller ones are really hard to find, but they're my absolute favorite because they just fit in the palm of your hand. I think they're just so cool. Yeah, most of these are Bibles or religious books. So usually there will be stuff tucked away in these old Bibles, as you can see. Usually you find like hair, which is weird, but it's like of a loved one, or photos of family, or obituaries I find a lot of tucked in here, or like their favorite like palms, like out of newspapers of that week. They're like newspaper clippings shoved in here, which I think is so much fun. So you get a cool old Bible and then fun stuff tucked away inside of it. I do have some like old medical books, so like of animals and human. I just think they're super fascinating. They'll show like old cows and sheep. So this one is like a human anatomy book that shows about the human body and diseases and what could be wrong, or just a bunch of cool things that, you don't really read about very often, but it's a huge medical book, and I like the old ones from the 1800s. I think they're just fascinating. I also have this gallery wall in my living room of random portraits. I do not know them. They are not family, but I do love them, and it's sad that a lot of people think they're weird to have and they just throw them away, because I think they're just so interesting. These were real people back in the day, and now they live on my wall. So most of these I find at flea markets or on eBay. Sometimes the thrift if you're lucky, but usually that doesn't happen because they'll get snatched up really quick because they're really cool. This one is a favorite of mine because of the unusual ornate frame that it's in. You don't see these very often. I found this dentist sign at a local antique shop from my friend. I like black signs, black and white signs, or black and gold signs. I think it's just a fun color display. My grandfather clock is probably my second favorite piece in here. Instead of my grandma's cabinet, I have this. So these are very hard to find. It's an 1800s grandfather clock. It doesn't work, but I found it off of Facebook Marketplace. Sorry, I keep saying that, but Marketplace is a wonderful place if you want to find old, cool things for cheap. It's massive. When I saw it online, I'm like, I have to have that because I have been looking for years. But when I saw it in person, I couldn't believe how big it is, because you don't really realize how big they really are until you're standing right next to one. So this cabinet I found off of Facebook Marketplace again. It's an older primitive piece. I got it for like $50, I think, but my TV fits perfectly on it. Our TV is a little big for the space, but it's all right. It's just a, necessity nowadays. My basket of canes. So this is a collection of canes that I have been gathering for about a year now. It's kind of crazy how many canes I find around this area. So this is just one of my collections of things that I like to grab often. It makes the space more interesting. There's a lot of it. It takes your eye to this spot. So I found this at another local antique shop. I actually have this one for sale right now on my website, but I do love it. So sometimes I do display things that I'm selling in my home while I have it. So I always fall for a landscape painting. Of course, this has sheeps in an old farmhouse, which I absolutely love. I'm now walking into my dining room, which is right off the living room. This table is also from Facebook Marketplace. I actually got this one for free. I don't see many like them, so I'm thinking that whoever made this, they lived in an old farmhouse or something and they built this table. The chairs I have thrifted, most of them were $2. My silhouettes of my kids I absolutely love. You always have to have a silhouette in an 1800s primitive style home. It seems to go hand in hand because they didn't take pictures, so they would draw the outline of your face and frame it on the wall. So I recently put this corner shelf up. It's old, I'm not sure how old it is, but I thought it would make a good shelving unit to put plates and pretty kitchen utensils on, just to make the space a little warmer with the wood tones and just something else to look at. Since my house is small, and I don't really have a lot of room for big pieces of furniture, I thought this was a good way to bring warmth into the space. I decided to make this little tablescape, so always flowers in a crock. Crocks are my go-to for flower arrangements. Old plates, old glasses, and then cutting boards. That's another thing I like to collect. I think it gives another, tone into the home. Lots of fruit. As I mentioned before, I like to collect baskets. You'll see them all throughout my home, all styles, shapes, big, tiny ones. This is just one of them. They give another warmth. I say warmth a lot because wood tones and wood baskets, they do give a lot of warm tones to your home. So I don't have a lot of that since my house was built in the 1950s. And maybe one day I'll get beams in here to bring more of that in to make it feel like an older style home. But for now, it's just gonna be lots of baskets. Right off our dining room is our kitchen. Pretty much our whole house is just one giant room because it is small. We just redid our kitchen about a year ago. It was originally the original 1950s kitchen, so like stove in the wall and all kinds of ugly wood and laminate. So thankfully I have a beautiful kitchen now that I get to enjoy. That's my kind of style in our home. So this cabinet is an absolute favorite of mine. These are hard to find too, the old, small, primitive cabinets. I think it just gives an awesome texture to the home. I love scallop pieces. My knives, I like old knives. Another collection of mine, I collect old knives. I thought it looked cool on a magnet strip above my stove. My mirrored sconce, these are hard to find too. I think it's so cool how they put little individual mirrors onto a sconce, so when you would light the candle, it would the light would beam off of this more so than just like a tin back. This pine piece of furniture I added recently. It was actually gonna be thrown away, and I decided to save it and put a curtain in it because there's no glass panels anymore. And it was skinny enough, I'm like, I wonder if that'll fit in my kitchen. And it fit in this space like a glove, so it'll probably stay there forever. My plate rack, I get asked about this all of the time. I searched, no joke, probably 5 years for one. They are very hard to find. I wanted a 2 stacked one, which you don't see very often. I love displaying my old ironstone plates on it. That's another collection that I have. You'll see lots of ironstone in my home. So copper, you'll see a lot of copper in old 1800 style houses because they would use copper pans and whatnot. So displaying copper in my home is a must because of the style that I have. And I think it's a fun tone to have. More portraits. So you'll see portraits all throughout my home, not just on my one gallery wall. This was a cool piece. I'm not really sure what it was for. The inside of it is tin lined. And then someone painted a portrait of a lady on top of it. I thought it was just very interesting because you don't really see stuff like this. So I just had to have it. So nothing in my kitchen is original to the house. We ripped everything out. I decided in my kitchen I did not want any upper cabinets because back in the day they put old cabinets together and whatever they had to make a kitchen. So I wanted that feel in my home. So instead of cabinets, I did open shelves, which I have all of my stuff on. So our glasses and stuff we use, and my baking bowls, and just decorative items that make this space pretty. So we planned our whole kitchen around my farmhouse sink. I found this again on Facebook Marketplace for 40 bucks. It was in some lady's basement. She didn't want it anymore. And thankfully I saw it first and I got it. It is a very cool piece. I knew I wanted this style of sink for a very long time. I think it is just so cool and it gives so much life to my kitchen. And then I put a wire cooling rack as kind of like a draining system for my cups and stuff when you wash them. So kind of a weird thing to put there, but it works and it makes the sink a little prettier. This door is not original. I actually had this in my bedroom for the longest time because it has a mirror on the back side of it. And I used it as like a body mirror, and I was just done with it in my room. And I'm like, I wonder if it'll fit anywhere else in the house, because I do love this door. And thankfully it fit perfect to our basement. So now it stays here. When we moved in, I didn't really have a style, nor did I really decorate my house in any kind of way. It was kind of just whatever I had or family gave me, we put in here because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. I started flipping furniture. That's why my name is Flipping Vintage. It got too much because our house is small, so my basement was full of painted furniture, which I decided not to do anymore. And after going to a lot of antique sales, my love of antiques grew, and I came across this style on Pinterest actually, and I was watching Annie with an E on Netflix, and I fell in love with this style. I loved everything about it. I loved the warm tones of the furniture and all the woodwork, and I want to incorporate it in my house, which I did eventually. So now let me take you to my daughter's bedroom. So this is my daughter's room. I actually just rearranged her room because I had 2 dressers in here, and this is the smallest bedroom in the house, and it just was not working. So I decided to put this big cabinet in here to put all of her clothes and her toys in, and it just works so much better. I got her pretty little tiaras up here, and she likes butterflies and shells and flowers. So it brings that feminine touch to her room, but still keeping it old, kind of my style, but things she enjoys. This antique oil painting was from the thrift shop. I paid maybe 15 bucks for, and it's massive and pretty cool and kind of a statement piece of her room now. So this mirror is a ornate mirror. It's kind of a French style, kind of not my style, but it is my style because I like them. So it gives another feminine touch to the bedroom. I found this off of Facebook Marketplace again, and I think it was only $20 if I remember right, and it's super heavy. I actually think it came out of one of the mansions in Akron. I love these old chairs that have these wooden details to it. I'm not sure what it's called. It's kind of like basket weaving on them. Usually they're like torn out or broken because they are so old. But this one was so cool, and I thought it would just be a cute little touch to her room, make it more primitive feeling. Her bed is an old Eastlake bed. That's the style that it's called. I love the style of these just because of all the fun scallops and all the detail they put in it, and they're also high. Usually beds are kind of low, and I really like the style of these, which I found this off of Facebook Marketplace too for maybe 15 bucks. So it was cheap and it's pretty and it works. If you're starting to thrift or you're looking to have a more collective home, I would suggest to start collecting certain items. So my favorite items to collect are like baskets or my antique Bibles, or I have a thing for chairs. I tend to grab every chair that I see. It's a problem. Or old linens, but mostly just keep gathering stuff. So keep buying multiple things of each item, and then you will have a more collective home. So now we are in my main bedroom. I like using old linens on top of newer linens. I think it gives the older feel and just extra texture to the room. So I have this old 1800s quilt. It's blue, which I love and gravitate to. I got this old striped French fabric. It's actually just over 2 pillows that I put on top of it. So it's not really a pillowcase or anything. It's just fabric draped over the pillows. My bed is Eastlake. It's actually a full-size bed. My bed is a king size, but I decided to put 2 of the side rails together to make it fit my king size bed, and it works just fine. I actually left them detached because we have a sleep number bed, which is really heavy and it has a base to it, so they don't really move. But if I don't want it in here anymore, I can make it back into a full bed, and I didn't harm an antique in this process. I have this portrait painting over here that I rescued off of eBay within the last 2 months. It was just the canvas rolled up. It has, you know, issues on the canvas of the paint falling off and chipping. But I decided I wanted to save it, so I grabbed it and then I put it on one of my old frames that fit perfectly. I actually hot glued the canvas to the frame to make it work. But it's such a beautiful piece, and I wanted to give it life again. This dresser I found off of Facebook Marketplace again. I think I paid 80 bucks for this one. I'm not sure what this wood tone is called. I've never really seen it before. It's very interesting. That's why I gravitated towards it. And it's just an old, massive, sturdy piece, which you can't really say no to because nowadays they don't make furniture how they used to. So I found this off of eBay. It's the blue ticking fabric work dress, as they would call it. I think it's so cool. You don't really find old clothing pieces anymore. So when I saw this item on eBay, I just had to have it because, well, it's just super cute. So this side table came with my daughter's bed when I bought it. They were like, just take it. And I'm like, cool, okay. I painted just around the drawer and the cabinet piece just to, you know, because it would kind of, the wood tones blended together. So I decided I just wanted to brighten it up a little bit. And I think it worked perfectly. I'm glad I didn't do too much because it just makes this space pop a little bit more. So I'll show you my boys' room next, which is right over here. So my 2 sons share a room. This room is probably the biggest room in the house, so it just made sense. So I found these 2 old beds off of Facebook Marketplace again. It's hard to find old twin beds that are still together. So I think I paid like $150 for them, but that's still pretty good because you can't find them very often. I have old wool coverlets on both of the beds. They're both different, I think, which makes the space more interesting because it's not just the same stuff over again. I decided to put this rug on the end of it just because of the brown and white stripe. I think it matches good with the blue tones. My boys like all farm themed cows, equipment type stuff. I came across this World's Dairy Congress banner on eBay, which is pretty cool because I haven't seen another one like it or anything similar to it, and it fits perfectly. It has the blue tones in here, which matches their room, and it gives kind of what they like into their space, but keeping it old and what I like to, because I know when they get older, they'll probably get rid of everything that I have and change it to their own, which is perfectly fine, but I'm going to enjoy this stage while I can. I got this antique oil painting from the thrift shop for 60 bucks, if I remember correctly, which is a very good find because usually if old paintings have cattle on it, they go for a lot of money because everyone wants one. This one has some damage, but I don't mind at all because of the price that I paid for it. It is just so beautiful to look at. I just love all the detail on the cows and just the color of everything. This dresser I found on Facebook Marketplace again. I didn't spend that much. I think it was maybe 20 bucks for this one. It had different pulls, so I decided I wanted the old cupboard style, and I added these on here for the more farmhouse boyish kind of look. And I painted it this dark green, which is probably my favorite color to use on furniture. I think it's just the perfect green. I like to use antique wool rugs in a space because there's only one of them, which makes it more fun. I like the brown and the blue tones or the blue-green tones, or sometimes the burgundy ones are pretty cool too, but they are hard to find and they do get pricey. I like to find them on eBay. They do go quick if you do get them on eBay. But I think it just gives fun texture to the room. Not everyone has it. Before we head out to my garden, I would like to show you my hallway. I decided to do checkerboard on the floor. I used to have this in my dining room before we switched out the floors when we did the kitchen. I think it's so fun. It's part of the older style. You see them in old homes. They used to paint the wood. I keep all my cool oil paintings in here. I like to just store them in here. Once I get the perfect size one, I'll place it in the wall. Hopefully one day this whole hallway will be filled with them. I got the sailboat from my local thrift shop for 60 bucks. I think it makes a good focal piece for this hallway. It just gives something interesting to look at other than my oil paintings. I chose this home for the land, not so much for the house itself. It's very hard to find land in our area, so as soon as this popped up on the market, we had to get it because it is so hard to find land. I decided to make my home the style that I wanted, which is older 1800s style instead of the 1950s style that it was. Welcome to my patio. We recently revamped our space. We actually had like an awning built over here, which was falling apart, and we decided to tear it down finally. And we repainted the concrete. I put this dining table here, which I love. When this is kind of new, so when it weathers, it'll be like a darker tone wood. It'll give that older style that I'm going for, which I love. So we plant hydrangeas all over the property. They're low maintenance, they're pretty, and they get massive. So I think they're like great barriers instead of using fences and stuff. And they're just beautiful. I love them. So we like to gather outside as much as possible. That's why this dining area right outside our house is perfect for family gatherings and dinner in the summer evenings. Welcome to my garden area. I didn't have a green thumb, well, I thought, and then I started a garden and it seems to be thriving. So I start everything from seed, and I like to use the term chaos gardening because I don't really know what I'm doing yet. This is like the third year that I have gardened. None of this was here on the property when we moved in. We did this about 3 years ago. So I'll take seeds and I'll literally just throw them out, and whatever pops up, pops up. I don't really weed my garden beds at all. I kind of just let everything do their thing. Sorry, my rooster's in the background. We have chickens. This is my flower bed / weed bed. I do the same thing. I just throw out flower seeds, and whatever happens, happens. But I do have some beautiful flowers this year. Last year I didn't get any, so that's a win. So I plant a lot of cabbage type stuff, and I got my celery and carrots and kale. Over here I have onions and broccoli and asparagus, acorn squash. I have my tomatoes and beets. I try to do a little bit of everything. Every year I'll try to do something new. So my picket fence, I got off the Facebook Marketplace for 60 bucks. Picket fence from the store is quite expensive, and I wanted to do this space as cheap as possible. So I got all of this picket fence you see in my garden area for 60 bucks, and we painted it black. So this was our duck hut, but now it's kind of my garden shed. My husband built this from my uncle's barn wood that they tore down, and we painted it black, but it makes my garden space cute. and gives that old feel again, because they would just take whatever they had and they would put it together and make something beautiful. Home means to me a place where you gather all the things you love. So your family, or items that you love, or items that have been passed down to you where you don't want to get rid of them. Just treasures that you don't want to part with.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.